So just last night, we saw the three-time league MVP Nikola Jokic flat out dominate and tear apart the top-ranked Minnesota Timberwolves defense. He put up 40 points, 13 assists, and 7 rebounds. Most notably, it was crazy seeing him dominate the four-time Defensive Player of the Year and this year's Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, all game long. Gobert just had no answer for him. We saw Nikola Jokic kill him in a multitude of ways. For one, he killed him in the low post. For example, he had this one really nice left-handed hook shot over the outstretched arms of Gobert in the first half. And in the second half, had a sick right-handed hook off the glass and into the basket off of multiple pivots. And then a little bit later, drives Gobert from the three-point line into the paint, gets fouled, and makes this tough leaning and one floater, kind of bounces in the basket. So just no answer for Gobert when it comes to trying to stop Nikola Jokic. And I'm seeing it on Twitter. People are killing Gobert right now, right? You're supposed to be the Defensive Player of the Year. You're supposed to be the four-time Defensive Player of the Year. You're supposed to be the best defensive player in the entire league. And you're letting Jokic kill you like this? A lot of times we do this. Whenever we see a team dominate or a player dominate, we always tend to focus on their matchup and how bad their matchup was. So if a player is playing very well, a lot of times we focus on the defender and we're like, hey, you got cooked the entire game. Or if a team dominates another team, usually we look at the losing team and we say things like they choked or make fun of their performance. Could it just be that Nikola Jokic is that good to where nobody in the league can stop him, even the Defensive Player of the Year? I mean, we even saw it in the first half or in the first round. Anthony Davis didn't even have an answer for him. So think about it. That's back-to-back series where two amazing defensive big guys just can't contain Nikola Jokic. So I think we have to settle on this fact that there is no true Nikola Jokic stopper. There just isn't, right? I mean, with Steph Curry, we got to a point where we realized nobody can really stop this dude. And a lot of it is due to, one, his skill set, but also how well his teammates play off of him. So it's tough to stop Jokic because of how in sync he is with his team. You have to pay attention to so many things that are going on off the ball that you kind of lose focus, and Nikola Jokic knows how to take advantage of that when he gets aggressive and scores the ball himself. So I think that's what we have to settle on, is that Nikola Jokic is just that dominant, and he's in that category of being virtually unguardable. And that's not something we could have imagined earlier in his career, that he'd get to this point where he'd be considered an unguardable player, but that's where he is right now, right? Just can't stop him. He's giving you that same level of hopelessness that only a few athletes can give you when you're kind of rooting against them. So I'm going to use an example. I was rooting for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year. Or excuse me, I was rooting for the 49ers in the Super Bowl this year because I just want to see a different team win. Patrick Mahomes is one of those dudes who can just break your heart completely with how great he is, right? With just how many stellar plays he can make. Nikola Jokic is that same type of guy. Steph Curry was that same type of guy, where they were so dominant, you felt hopeless rooting against them. And on top of that, their team was so in sync with them, right? Their team, they played so well together. You just felt this sense of hopelessness. You felt this sense of there's no way we can stop them. Even when you're up, you feel like at some point they're going to figure it out. So even when Minnesota went up 2-0 in the series, in my head, I'm like, at some point, this Nuggets team is going to end up figuring this thing out, because that's how great they are, right? That's how great this team is. That's how well built they are. And Nikola Jokic is that dominant of a player to lead a team to a comeback after going down 0-2. And now you look at them, they've rung off 3 straight wins. So Nikola Jokic is right now in that category of just unguardable players and those athletes that just leave you hopeless when you're rooting against them. I'm rooting for Minnesota to win this series. I really want to see Anthony Edwards get to the finals. I don't know if it's going to happen at this point. They're down 3-2, and a lot of confidence was sucked out of them after that game last night. But like I said, in rooting for the Timberwolves, you just had to recognize there's nothing that they can do to stop Nikola Jokic at this point in time. If Gobert can't stop him, if Anthony Davis can't stop him, then nobody can, right? I was in a group chat last night, and they were talking about how bad Gobert's defense was, and I was like, well, find me a player right now who can truly stop Nikola Jokic. There aren't a lot, and I don't think there are any right now, especially at the big man position. There may be a few who can slow him down for some possessions, but it's tough to stop a guy who can score 15 points and still be the most impactful player on the court. Jokic kills you in so many other ways outside of his scoring. It's tough to know what it means to truly slow him down. And another thing, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound crazy, The Nuggets are giving me serious Golden State Warriors vibes. They really are. When Golden State first got started, before Kevin Durant got there, they had such a successful system. They had guys who played so well off of each other, right? And it just made them unguardable. It made them unstoppable, right? They were led by Stephen Curry. Then they had Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and an amazing set of role players like Harrison Barnes, Iguodala, Sean Livingston, and all of those other players off the bench. They played so well with each other. It was just tough to stop. They had built up so much chemistry. They built up so much familiarity with their system. You couldn't stop it. They moved off the ball well. They made the right reads on a consistent basis. They were just such a well-oiled machine led by a dominant player. The Nuggets are giving me the same vibes. A different system, different offensive system, still a lot of motion going on, a lot of off-ball movement, but they run things a little bit differently than what Golden State did, but still the principle is the same. They surrounded their best player, Nikola Jokic, with so many great shot makers, so many guys who, whenever the opportunity is presented to them, will knock down open shots. They know how to generate easy looks, and they have so many great shot creators and shot makers. When those opportunities are presented to them to make those shots, they make them with ease. It is the perfect situation. It is the perfect team. They surrounded Jokic with so many great shot makers, and it just makes them unguardable. It makes them unstoppable. You can't lose track of any of the guys on the court. Usually when they're out there, there is not one player you can kind of ignore. They try to make it Aaron Gordon, right, by just walking off of him and leaving him on the three-point line and letting him settle for those shots. But there are also times where they'll try to do just that, and he still ends up with the ball and still ends up scoring. That's how well-oiled that team is. You cannot take your eye off of any of them at all. Same way the Warriors were in those early years in the Steve Kerr era. So I'm not saying they're the new Golden State, but what I am saying is right now when I'm watching them, they're giving me that same type of vibe. So we'll see what ends up happening. And if they end up going back-to-back and winning another title, then we'd have to say it, because even when they got started, the Warriors didn't go back-to-back, right? They won one championship and lost in the finals the next year. So the Nuggets have a chance to kick off this dynasty with a back-to-back championship run. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I think we're spending so much time giving the Timberwolves a tough time, right? Talking about how overrated their defense is and how overrated of a defender Gobert is. This is more about Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets just being that good and being that unstoppable. So we'll see what ends up happening. I hope the Timberwolves are able to recover in what is a crucial game 6, because I want to see this go to 7 and I want to see them go to the finals. But if I'm a betting man, I think the Nuggets are going to close this one out just with how much momentum they have, how much momentum the Timberwolves allowed them to get, and just how dominant Nikola Jokic is at this point in the postseason.